please welcome Renami to the stage. Give her a round of applause. Hello, darling. Doesn't she look gorge? I said she was doing up fashion today.
Hi, everybody.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. My name is Ranami Ogulu, CEO of Spaceship Collective. What else?
More. There's more.
Wow. I don't know where to begin. Creative strategist for Burna Boy. Just started Spaceship Films, so we run that as well. Spaceship Investments.
And loads more. First of all, I wanted to get into it because I've heard of creative director. Maybe I'm new to this, but I've not really heard of the concept of creative architect before. So can you talk to us about what that means, what that encapsulates, your role, and all that good stuff?
I mean, it's a fancy term. It's not really.
Wait, who came up with this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because it's dope, right?
I'm not really a titles person, actually. But I feel like sometimes, but I'm a logophile. I like words.
Okay.
So I try to find the best words to suit each scenario. I don't like being reductive to other people or myself.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
I love it. I might just start walking around and be like, yeah, I'm a creative architect.
It's best. If you need more, ask me. I got you.
Well, this is what you do. You do that best. So can you explain what your role is, what that does, and all of
So with that hat on, being a creative architect, I usually say it's like glorified HR rather. Okay. So it's basically you have a concept and it's your job to figure out all of the people that are needed to execute. Because a lot of the time people like to think they're able to be judge, jury, executioner.
Right.
And it took me a while to realize that there's no prize for suffering. The end goal cannot be excellence if you don't know how to split work accordingly and according to skill level. So I think what's important for me at that time in my life when I was just kind of getting into this role was being intentional about teams and being able to find the right people, whether they have 1 day experience or 5 years experience. It was more so, and it's when people say you pass the vibe check. On our team, it's bigger than that. Okay. Vibe check sounds cool and funny, but you can have done something for the biggest artist in the world, but you don't pass the vibe check here. And it's something fundamental about how you are able to cope in different scenarios, high stress, low stress. When we go out drinking after the show, how do you behave there? When the artist is just running amok, how do you behave? So it's all of those things. Those small details go into filling positions on whatever team it is, whatever project you're working on. So I think a lot of that job description is that. So basically like a fancy HR.
I mean, what you described is a lot more than HR, I would say, because to do what you do, you have to have like a creative eye. To me, HR is like, I'm going to complain about why my manager hasn't given me a 15-minute break, you know?
Fair.
That's why I want to know, like, why did this happen? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, but I guess the part about it is, so let me say a founder and HR.
Okay, right.
So the founder has a concept. To the founder, that thing is their baby. Mm-hmm. But every founder can be either emotionally attached or you're just not able to do all these things. That's why sometimes founders have to step down and hire a CEO to run it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think mixing those two, because the idea is there, the concept is there, the vision is there. I know what I want the end to look like. So now it's about who's going to do it and how am I going to do it in five minus 5 minutes, right? Because there's never enough time.
So when it comes to like the visuals, the live shows, building the brand, how do you decide that? How do you delegate that? How do you look for people? Do you also, because like I was saying, you're extremely creative yourself. Do you have an input yourself as well? Do you have a vision of what you want it to look like and then you let someone bring that?
Yeah, that's where it starts from.
Okay.
With every project, I mean, it starts with the artist, obviously, the music, and whatever it is. Sometimes when I'm not doing this and it's like 9 to 5, I'm talking to investors and all of these things, you have your idea, you know what you want the end goal to be. And typically when it comes to music, so if I use an album, for example, when an album is being recorded, I'm like the little person in the studio just absorbing the environment, and not because I'm not a studio rat. I don't flourish in the studio, but I have to make an effort to go to see what they're watching, because while they're recording and they're taking a break, there's something playing.
Right.
So I pick up those hints, and for example, with Burner on this album he dropped in July, all he was watching in his breaks was The Sopranos.
Okay.
So we never had a conversation about The Sopranos, but a lot of the creative for the album came from that, and just me observing that that's what he was watching. And then when he goes into the booth and records, he'll drop a bar and I'm like, oh,
Okay.
I get it. So then you start to have to pick breadcrumbs. So it's almost like making lemonade with no lemons sometimes, but
Right.
you gotta do it.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So like, you go in there, you listen to little bits, and then you'll come. But also, do you think because you have that relationship with Burner, it's easier, or sometimes it's harder? So you might know things about him that the ordinary person wouldn't know that was in your job role. But do you think or does that sometimes go against you as well?
I think I've done it for other people, so it's good and bad. Sometimes the proximity becomes problematic.
Right.
Sometimes it's the thing that kind of gives you the little like eureka moment, right? So I think it depends on what the situation is. Every situation is different, and I think it just depends. Some artists are extremely opinionated about everything, and then when
Sounds
you're
like
it's a lot of yeah. So when they're in their opinion phase, you know that this is time to just relax, and you pick your battles. You also have to be emotionally intelligent, because you can't speak to an artist who's super passionate about a record because, I don't know, maybe he broke up with his girlfriend, whatever the case may be, and in that moment you want to argue about why he shouldn't record a breakup song. It's not, so you let them go through all of that. Then you come back later and start dropping hints like, oh, you actually sounded better on the song you played before. Or, I played this song for a couple of people and all of them really like that one.
Right. Okay.
So it's almost like you have to figure out how to make your point and pass your point across without coming off as overbearing or like you're the smartest one in the room, because it's their life,
So one thing I will say is that obviously you're unapologetically Nigerian. How have you been able to obviously stay authentic to that, being African, but also widening the scale? So we were talking about in the last panel, obviously in the Western world, that's where most of the money comes from, but how have you managed to stay authentic to you, to your country, to your heritage, but make a global brand?
I mean, I think a lot of when people say culture, with me anyway, I don't want to speak for anyone, but with me, I find that there's some things that are inherently there.
Right.
And with regards to culture, it's about, like, you walk into some rooms or you have to have some harsh conversations with people that don't understand why this African thinks they need to be booked into this type of hotel, or why this African thinks I need to pay for a jet. Right? And at the end of the day, it's like, this is my value. If you're not able to meet it, it's okay for both of us to walk away. And I think just being comfortable in that and knowing that a no is not the end, or in trying to bend at every point in time. I mean, sometimes you need to bend to get to the end, but you have to be super smart about it and pick the things that you're bending for. And I think for us, we picked that quite early on. So there's specific values and specific things about our DNA that never changes. Whether we're in Thailand or Timbuktu or Lagos, it doesn't change. And I think, that can go across everyone, really, models, singers, whatever. I think there has to be something in you that you stand for, that no matter where you go, that thing's like, you're vegetarian. No matter what country you go to, you're veggie. That's your choice, right? So it's almost like you have to make a decision about what it is you're standing for. Or, like people say, you fall for anything, really.
So what would you say some of the challenges have been in doing that?
You have to walk away quite a lot sometimes. And, there's some people that I believe, as somebody who works in talent management, I can't lose sleep over something I don't believe in. And I think that goes to say for a lot of people that work in management, whether it's the back end or it's in touring or whatever the case may be, if you don't believe in what you're selling, at 5 p.m. I will clock out.
Right.
And whatever happens after 5 p.m. is between you and your God. So I think it's important to believe that your talent is worth every no. And that no, there's going to be a yes that comes from somewhere else. Like, that is, for me, the first thing. Before you sign up to anything, everybody should ask themselves, do I 100% believe this thing will get me yeses, or this thing will get where they think they're going to get?
Have you ever thought no, but the artist wants yes, or vice versa? Like, you think this
all
is going to be
time.
really good for them, and they're just like, no, absolutely not.
All the time.
How do you deal with that?
I think that's kind of where emotional intelligence comes in again, because sometimes you have to pick your battle. You can't win every time. So I think with me, I pick specific things that are worth dying on the line for, right? If I genuinely believe that this is a path we're gonna go, I am going to find 10 different ways to make sure that you see it in subtle things. I don't like on the nose, because you argue till the end. So figuring out ways to make them see, whether it's like sending a random Instagram page to them to be like, you see, this is what's the next big thing, get with it. Or we go somewhere and I introduce him to somebody and they become fast friends, and that person starts having a conversation about the thing I want him to understand. Right. Because again, you can't be the only voice in the room all the time, right? Or the only voice in the ear all the time. So it's about creating and curating environments that lead to the result you want.
The more you talk, the more I understand why you said HR.
Yeah.
No, because it is a lot of like navigating.
It's a lot of strategic planning.
And managing different people, but that is exactly what.
And emotions.
Yes. 100%, definitely that. From your perspective, what would you say the global industry can learn from the African creative ecosystem?
I think the biggest thing is about genre boxing. And, Afrobeat is great. And I can talk all day about the mechanics of music and the history of music, because I grew up with a geek of a grandfather who's obsessed with the history of music. But I think it's more so how the genre came to be, and why boxing artists into that specific genre is always going to be problematic. Right. And will always cause conflict down the line, where it's now a battle of, she's not being genuine, she's... But at the end of the day, all of this stuff is a fusion of different things. What Afrobeat was a blend of other genres of music, right, to even come up with that. So I think with the Western world, anybody that's African, whether you sing blues, soul music, electronic, jazz, your Afrobeats. Right. And it's not anybody's fault. I think human beings were wired to process information in specific ways so that it's snackable and it's easy to digest and it doesn't stress me. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants to be stressed at work. Absolutely. So it's easy to do that, but I think it's important for the Western world to actually, if you like an artist, it's important to connect with what they're trying to say, as opposed to what's easy for you as a consumer, right, okay, or what's easy for you as an exec in music, whether it's a DSP or whatever. I think that's my big thing. I think when we start to open up our minds to the fact that, yes, we're African, Afro is always going to be us. And that's what I was saying about, there's some things that are inherently built in. It goes without saying. Right. It's like saying somebody that's Nigerian doing jazz and you go to their concert and you hear drums. That shouldn't be shocking, because that person is African. Right. They play jazz, but then they're African. So drums is a big thing from where they're from. Mm. So I think it's just about that kind of like the cadence of what that feels like, and how artists even themselves, how confident they feel about putting music out, because that's a whole different story. Right. Because they're just people as well, So, yeah.
I was actually having this conversation earlier. We were saying that because obviously I interview a lot of people, and you do find that about artists, they are literally just people.
Yeah.
And you know, I've given my opinion on loads of people and all this stuff, and I think the more I've got into this industry and spoken to people and met people and sat down with them, you're just like, wow, you're just like as nervous as me, or you're just as worried as me.
You're just
like, you're just trying to figure it out. And that has been a big conversation about, I know a lot of times there's been a conversation about Afrobeat artists not wanting to be referred to as Afrobeats artists, and that has caused a lot of discourse online, and people are like, oh, but why wouldn't you be? And but you're saying it's just, it creates a kind of like a box.
Yeah.
Pez?
Nobody wants to feel caged at the end of the day. And I think for the fans and people who love what Afrobeats means, they're more emotionally attached to the journey and the story behind it rather than the title, because those are just words and letters strung together. And I think when the more we have conversations around this and the more we're able to think more holistically at music, I think a lot will change, and I think more artists will feel more confident experimenting, because that's the next phase. You know, the concept of Afrobeats now, the numbers on contracts are going down. Right. So it's time to figure out who you are individually and create music that feels right to you, as opposed to trying to fit into a box that helps other people digest what you are.
Yeah. Yes.
Who let you in here?
So you're the COO, right, of Spaceship Collective. Talk to me about that position, being a woman, and then being a woman in the male-dominated space. I was speaking to Vanessa earlier, and we was basically saying, when I looked at the panel, I was like, wow, like all the people that we love, more times it's women behind them that are making it happen, driving the boat, ticking everything off, making sure everything's okay. And unless there's like events like this and spaces like this to bring you women to the forefront, you kind of just get lost in it, if that makes sense. So how have you found that navigating this space as well? Because every time I see you, just look so graceful. Like, it's like, right? I'm like, thank you. Like, always so graceful, like just nothing. Like, coming in looking tea. Like, come on, right? Let's.
Girl, don't do that. You? Do you know what? I don't know. I think maybe it's a bit of it is how I was brought up, but the other part of it is I didn't choose music. I didn't choose this job. Not that I didn't choose it, but it was almost a thing of, I was trained as a finance person. My background is I was an investment banker. My dream was to be the president of the World Bank, right?
Wow.
And I was gunning. I went in A's, distinction, merits. Wow. I was on it. And then it got to a point where my mom she's trained as a linguist. She speaks 6 languages. And she was managing Burna Boy by herself for all of these years, and they achieved so much. And I was in school, obviously, and I couldn't even pretend to be interested in what was going on. And at some point, you know, she always used to wear like best friends, so I knew everything that was happening, but I just wasn't interested in like the mechanics of it. And I was doing NYSC in Nigeria, and I was working in corporate banking. And I remember saying, I'm gonna take 3 months off, and I'm gonna help you because you look attacked, right? And in my 3 months, I wanted to do many other things. I wasn't only trying to help her. It was just, you know, you're my girl, I got you, whatever. Right. So she started sending me emails. It was 1 a day, then 3 a day, then 5 a day. I'm like, okay.
Eek. I didn't sign up for this.
And then one day she says, we're going on tour. I'm like, with who? You know, so we did all of that. I joined, and it was a rude awakening.
Wait, how long ago was this one day we were going to go on tour? How long ago was that?
This was for me, it was 2018.
Okay, so that's a long one day.
Yeah.
So since then you've been on tour.
It's been long days.
Right.
Let's just say after that 3 months sabbatical, I never went back to finance.
Wow.
So obviously now in being the COO, that's part of, I'm using all of that stuff now, which is great. But I think what that did was, obviously she saw that. And I think for me, when I realized I had to spend more hours doing the music business, it was more so you have to match my salary.
Right.
Can your artists match my salary? And she said, oh, sure.
I love the way you said you're the artist, like it's not her brother.
Your artists. At that point, there's nothing. You know, so we did. So she's like, we'll figure it out, right? At some point, she wasn't even paying herself, so I don't know how she managed to match my salary.
Right.
Whatever books she was balancing. And so that's how we carried on. And I think from that day, I mean, she was still operating out of a Yahoo email, the company. And those things just were not her priority at that time.
Right.
She had a laundry list of things that were more important. Building that specific aesthetic structure and all of that stuff wasn't her issue. But what she managed to do was build a strong band. And her younger brother, who's Uncle T, he literally scouted everybody from the band from his church.
Wow.
So all of that stuff contributed to how the whole operation started and how it became what it is today. The intention was always about live music. It was not really about studio recording. And I think that's why a lot of people don't really, sometimes it gets a bit confusing about why are you always on tour? Why are you guys always on the road? And it's more so like, this was the intention.
Right.
The intention was never to go to a studio in LA and sit there for months, you know? So we did all that. And then I think she was really intentional about creating a space where I felt free to make the job what I wanted it to be, because she didn't have the answers.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that is really important for all of us. It's like, we grew up realizing that only speak when you have something smart to say. Otherwise, listen first.
Right.
Which is why I always say I lucked out, because a lot of artists don't listen. And I think the one positive thing I will say about Bernard today is he listens. And it's because that is like the foundation of how we grew up.
Right.
So even with my friends, I sit and I listen, and they'll be like, oh, so how about you? I'm like, no, I'm listening. I'm here. And it's super important, because with that, you learn things like body language. You know how to be emotionally intelligent. You know when someone is nervous. You know when somebody is scared. And those things are important. So I never really saw gender.
Okay.
I never really saw it. Was there. It's like undertone, the crackling in the air. But it never really was an issue for me.
So it wasn't an issue in-house?
No,
but
in general.
Have you ever felt like when you're in spaces, people look at you differently because you're a woman, or you feel...
They probably do. I just don't notice.
Okay, first.
I neither notice nor care.
Right.
Because I think at the end of the day, if I have something smart to say, you will hear me. And I'm not leaving until I'm sure you've heard me.
Right.
You know, so, and I think that was what was a bit jarring in the beginning for a lot of people we had to deal with, like with labels and all of these things. It's these two African women just marching into all these rooms. By the end of the day, it was just that. And after we finish, we can kiki. And if we're not going to kiki, either my mom or myself will say, well, not nice to meet you, but nice to meet you.
Right. I love that.
And let's go again.
Right.
And that's just what it is. And I feel like with that in mind, it's either people respect you or they don't. And if they don't, that's okay too. Not everybody, that's not how the world was meant to be. Not everybody's meant to be your bestie.
This is true. It's so interesting though about you said about the live, because I always say that Bernard to me is like one of the best live. Like seeing him live, I don't think I've ever seen Bernard and been like, oh okay. And I said this to him as well, like the spaces, the way he can go in different spaces, like he can do Roundhouse, which is very intimate, and then he can go and do the whole stadium, and you're still going to get that same level of energy. And now it makes sense, because you're saying that has always been the goal, because you can see that he loves being in that space, and that's where like he comes alive.
But I think even with that point, it's less about him and more about the concept of understanding what an artist wants to be.
Right.
Because with things like TikTok and, that's the only way to get a hit. It has to be on TikTok. And like there's so much information coming at you every day. Data analysts are sending emails. I dread the 9 a.m. email every week from the data analyst telling you about how you need to be more TikTok friendly. You need to be more this. And unfortunately, I'm the one that has to process it. But everybody else is like, this isn't why we're here.
Does that ever worry you though? Like when you see those things?
It does.
Right.
It does. And only because I'm also quite mathematical. And that's kind of where I tip over.
Right.
Because unlike, my mom, who's basically my business partner, I feel like she would be an artist if she wasn't what she is, right? Mm-hmm. So she's able to put her mind in the mind of an artist. I can't.
Right, okay.
I mean, I can to an extent, but I still have that part of my brain that's about 1 + 1 must be 2. La La Land is cute, but I can't sleep if it's not 2, right? So, and I think that's why we balance out so well.
Well, it's important, I think, when you have a team, you have to have like the people that are the dreamers, and then the person that makes the dream come true, or thinks about the way that it's gonna get to that point. I just want to. What advice would you share with the young creatives and executives on building their careers, but that want to be authentic, but they also want to be strategic?
It's a tough one because if you follow the trends and all of that, there's a lot to unpack. But I think for me, as somebody who's on both ends, or who has experienced both ends, I really want artists to be able to be themselves. Like, if you like playing the guitar, if you want to play the trombone, please do that. And if you want to have a concert and busk under the bridge because that gives you something, please do that. Even if you're Elton John, right. And I really want execs and all of those people to actually take some more time. I know, life is tough. We're all fighting for our lives every day. But I think with art and artists, it's really important to dedicate, even if it's 10 minutes of your day, to understand somebody that you're going to have a conversation about. Right. Because that changes everything. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm having a conversation about an artist, and I've never listened to their music, but I have to be the one to approve a budget. It doesn't make sense. And these things happen so much because no matter how emotional we want to be about it, a label is a business. A DSP is a business, and I get that. But I feel like, again, to what we're saying about there has to be balanced. There needs to be a check and balance in every room that makes sure that in as much as we need to get our bottom line to make sense, we also need to understand that art is art and it's a subjective thing that's never gonna be objective. 1 + 1 in art is never gonna always be 2. So, I don't know, I wish there was a way to make that mathematically digestible. But, we keep trying every day till we get somewhere.
Are we doing a few questions? Has anyone got a few questions? Because they're telling me we have to wrap up already. Anyone got a question? Yeah.
I think I have a question there.
Oh, we got one here, and then we'll go to the back. We got one.
My name is Omar.
Yeah.
I can see the excellent job that you've done over the years, from building your siblings, which is valuable. What have you got, or what can you explain or give a manual to the upcoming ones to be able to get to that destination?
I think the question I would ask you is, what is the destination?
The destination is exactly where your brother is right now, because he's a global artist. All artists look up to him. So what I'm thinking is, how do we enable the young ones to be able to get to that level as well? Because it's not easy to be on that, to be a global icon.
But I think I'm less worried about everybody achieving global stardom, Because again, I feel like global stardom is different. It looks different to different people. And even for him, I think every day, the answer to that question changes. Because global stardom can mean what? You sell out stadiums, you sell out arenas. Global stardom could also mean you're selling 50,000 units in the US in the first week of release. Sometimes you can't do both, you know? So I think it's important for every artist to actually understand what their goals are. And not because Burna did it, I should do it. Sometimes that's not the path. And again, global stardom is amazing, and that's the dream. And to your point, I think the simple answer to your question is consistency. Just keep showing up every day. Even,
I get that, sorry for cutting you short, I get that, but not many artists understand that consistency. That is why earlier Vanessa was saying that there's a lot of separation in the industry. So somebody like you, I'm sure you've got the most into enable young ones.
when you say separation, what do you mean?
In terms of the ones, the artists at the top and the ones at the bottom.
That happens everywhere.
I understand that.
Do you know something? I feel like a lot of the discourse in the music industry, and I would say Africa because that's the context we're discussing today, I think it's more so about everybody looks left and right too much. I think if we all focused on looking forward, a lot would move quicker.
I agree with that.
And there's a certain level of stardom you get to that you still ask yourself whether you're a star yet. So I think, and I don't know, maybe I'm jaded. I don't know. Maybe I've seen too much. But I just feel like the clearer you can be about what you want your goals to be or what your actual goals are, the happier you'll be in the end. Because I've seen artists who have everything. They have the records, they have the awards, they have the Grammys, but they're not happy. They don't feel like they're fulfilled. They don't feel like they've achieved their purpose. So that goalpost will always shift. But I think with regards to how to achieve success, even if you get 1 stream on your song, keep recording. If you get 2 streams tomorrow, keep recording. It's like the TikTok algorithm. They'll tell you, back to our data gist. They'll tell you posts. If you post multiple posts a day, you're more likely to get traction. And, you know, numerically, data, that's true. That's worked for a lot of people. So why not do the same thing as a person? Keep recording, keep releasing, keep working hard. Because at the end of the day, you only get better.
Thank you. Well, can we have one more round of applause? That was actually amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I think we have one more chat now, so thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. That was really nice.
Everyone.
Thank you. Oh.
Oh, she needs.
Serious juice.